Oh, yes. What's going on, everybody? It's Tuesday night, 10 o'clock Central Time. Check. Got a Paloma here. Check. We got a big UFC card coming up this weekend. Check. Pay-per-view. Check. UFC 276. 2 title fights. Banger of a main card. We got Israel Adesanya versus Jared Cannonier. We've got the trilogy, Max Holloway versus Alexander Volkanovski. We've got Sean Strickland going up against Alex Pereira. We've got Sean O'Malley going up against Pedro Munhoz. I think they moved Lawler versus Barberena to the main card. This card, 12 fights, is amazing. I can't wait to break down all 12 of these fights with you guys from a tape study and a stats perspective. We got all you guys hanging out in the chat with me right now. We got first run in the room, Mark Schillingberg here saying, "Oi, excellent card. Can't wait to chop it up, Uncle Weezy. Best bets I've made last couple cards have been time props. Hit 2 over 1.5s in PFL heavyweight at plus 225 a piece last week. Shit like that. Damn, dude. That's some nice hits, Mark. Thanks for stopping by. Thanks for hanging out. And thanks for hitting those bets. It's always good to see people cashing bets like that, man. And plus money bets make it even better. Brandon saying, oi. And we got Daz Files saying, oi. And he's saying the Aussie version, which is like, oi. It's a little bit different, but thank you for hanging out, Daz Files. We got Brandon saying, hope my alarms work. I think they will, man. We got Grateful Dude saying, oi. We got M.A. Laren saying, oi. How's it going, thou wheeziest of uncles? I'm pumped to make it in time for your show. Please, 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 oh wise man, tell me how to make money against the judges. Seemingly random scoring. Yeah, you can't. You just got to hope that the mob is paying off the judges to judge in favor of the guy that you bet on. There's really no other way to do it. And you can tell that the commissions have absolutely no interest in stopping bad judging. They keep inviting the bad judges back over and over and over again. So they're not invested in stopping it. They like it just the way it is. If you want to try to avoid, like I've looked at a couple of fights, like I was looking at betting Maycee Barber by decision. But, when you start looking at decision bets, you have to start saying, shit, man, it goes to the judges. So, you can't. There's really not much you can do. You just got to trust your reads. You've just got to do your research. Make the best possible bets that you can make using your methodologies, and then just hope that you don't get screwed by the judges, because otherwise there's no way to do it, because they have no interest in stopping bad judging. They're encouraging it. And we see the same bad judges every damn week. And they talk about changing them, but it's all just talk. And last week, we saw judges judging on control time instead of damage, as we've been preached to for the last 2 months, that judges are, judging on damage. And now Jin Yu Fry did more damage. She lost. TJ Brown did more damage. He lost. Armin Sarukian did more damage. He lost, so there's no way. It's just going to be, you have to get lucky. We're gambling. We have to admit that luck is a part of what we do. We're going to have to get lucky, because the judges are going to keep fucking people. Victor de Jesus saying, oi, yes, what's up, Weezy in chat? What a great event we have coming up this weekend. Let's stack them. Let's get it, Victor. Thanks for hanging out, brother. David saying, in Homer Simpson voice, flapjacks. This card is sick. It really is. It's crazy. Let's get it, man. Dan Goldstein, evening, you big, beautiful bastards. This card is stacked, not only with great fights, but with every Sean, Brad, Alex, and Jessica on the freaking roster. Yeah, you got that right, man. Papa Chuck saying the Fry and Demopoulos fight going 29-28. Either way, I was okay with. The 30-27 card from Jaren Vallel was bullshit. I think he was scoring each round by which fighter gave him the most consistent hard-on. Yeah, Jaren Vallel's a moron. I mean, you've seen that dude ref fights. He's nearly gotten dudes killed in there before. I can remember one time that there was a choke, and the guy was like telling him, hey, he's out. He's out. He's out. He's out, Jared. He's out. And then the guy had to just let the choke go before Jaren Vallel stopped the fight. He looked, and then Jaren Vallel, when you just see the dude, he just looks stupid. He's got that vacant look on his face, like he has no fucking clue what's going on. So, yeah, I'm not surprised to see a 30-27 scorecard from a moron like Jaron Villel, an incompetent idiot. And incompetent idiots are going to be absolutely welcome to judge UFC fights. So why not a 30-27 card for Vanessa Demopoulos, thanks to Jaron Villel? He fits right in there with the incompetence that he is surrounded by. Addicted to Combat, my guy in the room saying, got my Don Julio and a lit stogie. I'm pumped for this card. What up, Onk? Dude, good to see you, man. Let's enjoy a beautiful beverage and talk about a beautiful night of fights that is coming up this Saturday, everybody. My guy JSJ saying, oi, enjoyed the show with Clint last night. Weezy plus International Fight Week equals record viewer count. Man, I'm telling you, dude, this card, I was a short notice replacement for Clint. He asked me on Sunday if I could do the show, and you don't ever say no to Clint. So I was absolutely happy to do the show, the Die Hard MMA podcast, one of the biggest shows that there is on YouTube discussing MMA every single week. So it was awesome to be on Clint's show. It was awesome to see that there were over 450 live viewers at one point. We were humbled by that, had a couple drinks, talk fight for 2.5 hours, and I'm ready to talk them again tonight with you guys. This is such a great card, and it's an honor to be a part of the YouTube community that gets to talk about it with you guys. So thanks for hanging out, JSJ. Appreciate you, man. Daz File saying, good luck on all the Southern Hemisphere components in your parlays, everyone. Let's go. We got Mushroom saying, oh, yes, flapjacks, orange juice, bookies, things we eat for breakfast. Let's fucking go. What's up, Mushroom? Good to see you in here. Lou Bet you saying, had to make sure Weezy had a tough act to follow tonight. Thank God for John Kelly. Dude, yeah, Lou Betcha did a show on the MMA Engine YouTube channel with John Kelly earlier tonight. Go check that out if you haven't checked it out yet. And they did a really good job breaking down this UFC 276 card, giving their best bets. It's such a great one to talk about. And Lou also says, oh, yes, what's up, Lou? We got Nick saying, he is saying, hello, gentlemen, Uncle Weezy, oh, wise one, show us the way. And y'all hit the like button. Let's make some money. Let's go. And we got Daz Files saying, let's stack cash tickets like flapjack, says Uncle Weezy. And we got Sup My Brother, says Lou Betcha. And Daz Files saying, hey, bring it, Mushroom, bring it, what a card. Damn right. And we got Travis saying, oi, let's go. What's up, Travis? We got Oxygen 3000 saying, whoa, you guys are killing it with the comments. My God. Thank you, Weezy. Sure appreciate you. This mother Canucker better be drinking tonight or we riot. I am drinking. Blood Money saying, Weezy, what up, brother? Doubling still at the end of 276. Yeah, I'm sure that's probably what's happening here. Can we make money on it? It might be difficult, man. Maybe Volkanovski's like a parlay piece. Maybe Adesanya is a parlay piece. But boy, those lines are wide, man. And I think in particular, the Holloway Volkanovski fight, that's been a very close fight 2 times in a row. So, yeah, I think it's going to be and still for both these guys, but you never know, man. With MMA the way it's going lately, dude, nothing would shock me, but I can't wait for these fights. Mushroom saying, Lou Betya coined the term clam bags. I believe it's yam bags, but also did he do clam bags too? Andy G saying, oi, let's go, Weezy. The bookies tried shaving my ass last weekend and succeeded, but it's my turn this week. It's all of our turns this week, man. Let's get it back. Jorge Montero saying, just in time, hashtag that robe. You got that right, man. We got the smoking jacket in full effect tonight because it's Tuesday, because it's just the tip, because we got UFC 276 coming up. My guy Dan Hamilton in the room saying, oi, 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 from the People's Republic, the headquarters of DraftKings, and where sports betting is illegal. He must be talking about Massachusetts, or as it's otherwise known, Taxachusetts. Welcome, Dan Hamilton. Good to see you in here. Danny Kingsbury saying, let's hit them bags. Let's get it, Danny. Let's go. My guy Daz Files, ring a ding ding. The first donation of the show. $5 from my guy Daz saying, bet smart, maintain the right mindset, and let's bash these bookies. That is lucrative MMA. My guy James Blissett down there in New Zealand, I believe. Is he in New Zealand or in Australia? I think he's in New Zealand. But either way, man, that dude is one of the best MMA gamblers that ever walked the face of the planet. So yeah, if you're going to take advice from an MMA gambler, man, Lucrative is definitely one of the guys to do it from. My guy Steiny saying, what a card, let's get it. Jeff K saying, oi, let's go. And Prince of Mischief saying, oi. And Mark Schillingberg saying, love the Aussie version. And Dan Hamilton saying, Shavkat doesn't need judges. He has never needed judges. Yeah, Blood Money agreeing. Robert Sella saying, I told you about that plus 240 on Gamrot. That was the spot. It sure wound up being the spot, man. What a great fight that was. AFG Baller saying, Weezy, I like Barberena money line. Lawler looks shit. Yeah, I'm kind of thinking that Barberena is going to win that fight. He does that. I'll give you one pick already. I'm picking Barberena to win that one, but it's going to be a good one. It's going to be a fun one, and that's why it's on the main card. Cam Glass saying, who needs Viagra when you got Uncle Weezy facial hair? You got that right, Cam. Thanks for joining us, brother. We got Justin Villegas saying, Duplessis. Yeah, Duplessis. Dope Space Cowboy saying, I caught Gamrot at plus 400 live bet after round 2. That was crazy odds. I tried to get in there and I missed it, Dope Space Cowboy. I was thinking to myself, I think Sarukian won rounds 1 and 2, but, these judges suck, so why not? At plus 400, it was a close fight, so a great call on that one. Justin saying, I'm on the Aussie and Duplessis hype train. There's a lot of Aussies fighting, man. That's for sure. Prince of Mischief saying Sean Strickland has been added to the UFC 276 press conference. It's about to get wild. Yeah, it will, man. AFG Baller saying, can't believe Vieira versus Curtis goes the distance. Yeah, man. Nobody was seeing that coming. I wanted to bet it. I didn't. But, yeah, all 7 of their combined UFC fights had finished inside the distance. And Rodolfo Vieira had never seen the scorecards in his career. So definitely wasn't something that was going to happen often. But at plus 500 for fight goes the distance, sometimes you can make those bets because the line is so wide and because the benchmark for the decision rate for the 185 pounds, which is like 44%, was like, something like 30% higher than the implied probability of the line. So it wound up being a good bet for it to go to decision. But, it's not like you really thought that fight was going to go the full 15 minutes. Nathan saying probably one of the toughest cards to pick here. Let's go, though. Let's go. AFG saying can't wait till Strickland sees Khabib at one of these events and Khabib chokes him out. Masiso saying, sup, Weezy Turner. Maybe going to try Fasayev spinning kick. I can see it. Oh, that would be something, man. It's not really hit the kind of techniques Jalen Turner throws, but man, that'd be something. Robert Sella saying, regardless of the decision, that's on the side. That's the side you want to be on with a close 50-50. Like, yeah, absolutely. The plus money. Richard Gagnon saying, Loon Betcha show with JK today was excellent. Yes, it was. It was very good. I was there watching. And we got Ice Viking saying, oi, what's up, Uncle Weezy? Looking forward to dipping the tip into these fights with you. Let's get it, man. Jester saying, oi. Roshwan Yee saying, Holloway with the triumphant event. Let's go. Nathan Robinson saying, Sugar the ass shaving of the week with the pink hair. You're going to have to wait to find out till the end, my man, Nathan. Daz File saying, Clid's podcast never seen 200 likes before. That was the quality of the people you brought to the channel. Took a couple of nips. Yeah, man, I'm going to take a couple of nips tonight too, but we couldn't believe it, dude. 200 thumbs up. We were like, fuck, let's take a shot, man. That's something else. And over 400 live viewers. I was humbled to be a part of it, believe me. And we got Eric Cote saying, this is a big one. John Smith saying, let's go Weezy. We got Travis M saying, Max a legit threat, but I think Volkanovski at anything under 200 is a steal. John Smith saying, we are robbing the bookies this weekend on a real fight card. Let's go, man. That's right. Justin saying, all my ladies know Tuesday night is Uncle Weezy and chill. Damn right, Justin. Hyena95 saying, Sean Fake Psycho Strickland will shoot for a takedown within the first minute. Sean Strick Magomedov. He might, man. He might put on that singlet. It'd be the smart thing to do. Uncle Weezy, which fighter is going to be the Tafan this week? We'll find out, man. I had a bet on Tafan, and, he just got absolutely, starched. What can you say, man? It's a fight. You never know when that shit's going to happen. I thought he'd be able to walk down Alberg. I thought he'd be able to put him up against the cage. I knew he'd be stronger. Figured he'd be the better wrestler. Figured there'd be a lot of ways that Tafan can make Carlos uncomfortable. Whenever you're betting 185, 205, 265, right? Those guys hit hard, and any one of those shots can separate you from your consciousness. And he got caught. So, we'll find out. But when we go through all these fights, we'll kind of find out who that Tafan is going to be this week. John Smith saying, how was the main event not a split decision last week? John, I wish I could tell you, man. But like I say, these guys are incompetent. And there's no interest in changing anything about it. Trust me. There's a lot of people. There's a lot of criminal organizations. There's a lot of fight fixing. This shit happens. And in order for it to happen and happen in a reliable way for the people that are fixing the fights, they got to have corrupt judges that they can rely on, that will do it the right way. And Sal D'Amato's fantastic at it. Chris Lee is fantastic at it. Jaron Villel even showed that, he can throw his hat in the ring and give a completely unacceptable scorecard that makes no sense at all. And we're not going to see it. It's not changing, you guys. There's a lot of money at stake in these fights. You look at how much money is on the line. These judges, when it does go to decision, they're there to make sure that the right people make money. We're not the right people. We're not in that club. We've just got to do our work, and we got to work extra hard because we don't have access to the information, which fights are going to be fixed and which judges are going to be there to fix which fights. So we just got to move on. We got to do the best we can, John. Andy saying, Uncle Weezy and chill. Love that. Wise Little Goat saying, did you win any money last week? I did not. Any confident picks? Yes, I do. Eric Cote saying, I cashed Curtis by decision plus 2,200 last week. That's 4.3% implied probability, man. That is unbelievable. We got Robert saying, Tafan came back way too early 3 months after that brutal flying knee. That was such a soft punch. Yeah, he just... I don't know. I don't know what to say about that. Yeah. Glad to catch you live, says my man Blaine's Towns fan. We got Jester saying, if you think a fight is going to go to decision, sprinkle the split. Worth it saying, I'm joining you for an O'Malley fight goes the distance, able to get plus 120 odds. Gonna hedge it with Pedro inside the distance. Let's get it, Weezy. My biggest bet ever. I'm with you on that, Worth it. Andy saying, D'Amato, Chris Lee, Bird. I'd love to see who bankrolls these clowns and the exposure, the corruption that runs deep in judging. Yeah, the people are bankrolling them. They're there every damn week, you guys. Will you marry me saying PFL is definitely fixing fights? Yeah, PFL is fucking... That's why I don't even cover them. I want nothing to do with PFL. They put on an event that had already happened and claimed it was happening live. That is so dishonest. It is so criminal. Let's see here. Do I mix green with tobacco? No, I do not. I don't smoke tobacco. Victor saying, I feel like I was the only person who ended with a winning week last week. There weren't many, man. That's for sure. Some people did well. I definitely didn't. I was down, am I Italian? No, I'm not. I'm Greek and Danish. Brisky saying, I don't get it all the judge hate on the Gamrot Arman fight. It was an extremely close fight. Every close fight is not a robbery. Agreed. Every close fight is not a robbery. I just thought it went the other way, Brixie. I thought that Sarukian pretty clearly won it, but I didn't have any money on it. So I wasn't crying robbery or anything like that. I was just surprised. I was surprised that Gamrot won it on all three cards. And I'm pretty sure that when that fight went to decision for a close fight, Vegas would have preferred that Gamrot won. And they got what they wanted, and that's what people are saying, every close fight isn't a robbery, but some of them just don't make sense. Some judging just doesn't make sense. And we saw them once again judge on control time this time, when the last three events, we were looking at judges who were not looking at control time at all. So it just goes to show you that when the criteria constantly changes, it's not necessarily that the criteria is changing. It's just that they're getting paid to go to a different side. And then here, so we've got a donation in here. Let me see. Pascal, my guy, saying this card is stacked to the tits. Let's get that money. Thanks for all the content, Weezy. Ring a ding ding. Thank you, Pascal, for supporting the channel. But we're almost already 20 minutes in, you guys. So let's go to the stats. Let's start breaking down all 12 of these fights on the UFC 276 card. See if we can find some angles to make some money here. And let's see. I'm going to share my screen with you guys. And we've got the stats up here. Let's zoom in on them so all you guys can see. And we're going to start with Jessica Rose Clark versus Julija Stoliarenko. I've got Stoliarenko with a, oh, and by the way, everybody, in the description of this video, you can download these stats for free. In the description of this video, you can find the links to the main event breakdown I did with DFS by the numbers on the MMA Engine YouTube channel. You can find the link to Stat Diggers. You can find the link to the Die Hard MMA podcast that I did on Pub Sports Radio with Clint yesterday. And as always, all the stats here for all 12 fights, and then the career stats of every fighter on the roster here from top to bottom. We start with Jared Cannonier and Israel Adesanya, and we go all the way down. We've got all the stats, all the fights for each fighter. Download it for free. Use it to help you make your gambling decisions, and hopefully we can continue to stack cash tickets like flapjacks. Oh, yes, down 1.9 units last week, you guys. Lost on the Tafon and Chukwi money line, won on the Sergey Morozov money line, and I lost on the parlay TJ Brown, Moises. TJ Brown absolutely blew it as the ass shaving of the week. Never betting dudes with shit haircuts again. And I already had the bet, though, on Sean O'Malley, so you can't hold that one against me this week. But going forward, Julija Stoliarenko, good measurables advantage here in this fight. She's 5 years younger, 2 inches taller, and a 2-inch reach advantage. In terms of the experience, Jessica Rose Clark got a couple more fights, some more cage time, 3 more UFC fights, and about 43 more minutes in the UFC cage. Stoliarenko is more durable and the better finisher here. She has an 89% finish rate in her 9 wins. Jessica Rose Clark only has a 45% finish rate in her 11 wins. Jessica has been finished in 1 of her 3 losses by submission, and Julija Stoliarenko has been knocked out twice in 6 losses, but none of them at the UFC level. When we get to the striking here, I think it's going to be Jessica Rose Clark's advantage. She is a good kickboxer, but we haven't seen her use it lately. And she was afraid to use it for some reason against Stephanie Egger, decided to, feed her hips to a judo black belt, and she got tossed around and submitted on the ground. Really showed some pathetic fight IQ. So just before we even go any further with this fight, laying juice on fighters that make really bad decisions in the cage is a really good way to lose money. And Jessica Rose Clark at minus 170 against a woman that can't strike at all, immediately shot for a takedown. Julija Stoliarenko is a specialist. She gets arm bars, and that's it. Her striking has gotten better. She's gotten to the point where she's able to kind of, not lose all the minutes on the feet. She can land some strikes. She's tough. She's durable, but she is a specialist that goes for arm bars. And when you're facing a fighter like that, you want to stay away from what they're good at. And Jessica Rose Clark, dove headlong right into what Stephanie Egger was good at last time. So really bad fight IQ. I do think Jessica Rose Clark's going to win this fight, but there's no way that I can bet her because I can't count on her to make good decisions inside the cage. And I mean, you can look at the tattoo on her face and see that she makes bad life decisions too, not just in the cage, outside of the cage as well. But when we look at the numbers, you guys, Stoliarenko is absorbing 4.2 significant strikes a minute and only landing 2.68. She's 41% accurate. She has no knockdowns, and she has 44% striking defense. So if this fight stays on the feet, Jessica Rose Clark's landing more strikes than she absorbs. She's landing at a 52% accuracy, showing almost 60% striking defense. So if this fight is on the feet, she should be able to win minutes. In addition to that, Jessica's done a really nice job being able to use the wrestling to win minutes as well. She's over 50% on her takedowns. She's getting 1.77 takedowns for 15 minutes, and she's out-controlling her opponents about 36% to 15%. So about 50% of her fights are taking place in control time positions, and she's owning about 70% of that control time in those fights. So Jessica Rose Clark's been pretty efficient with her grappling. She's attempted as many takedowns as her opponents have, but she's out-controlling her opponents at better than a 2-to-1 ratio. While Stoliarenko has attempted as many takedowns as her opponents, but she's getting out-controlled 48.7% to 6.6%. So Julia's losing minutes on the ground as well. And because she hasn't locked up any arm bars, she's not really winning any moments here at the UFC level. She's 0-4 here. But she's fighting the better brand of competition. She's got a better ratio here than Jessica Rose Clark, and she's fighting just as experienced the competition. So I like Julia's grappling and her ability to be able to get submissions, but I think Jessica Rose Clark will be the better minute winner everywhere. So here's what I would do. If I was going to bet this fight, I would bet the Jessica Rose Clark decision-only prop, because that way you don't have to worry about the Julia Stoliarenko armbar. And if you remove the threat of the Stoliarenko armbar, I believe that Jessica Rose Clark should have a very easy time winning minutes here. And if this fight goes to decision, it's hard to see Stoliarenko getting 2 rounds on the judges' scorecards when she's absorbing 1.6 more significant strikes per minute, when her opponents are throwing more volume, when she's blocking punches with her face, only showing 44% striking defense. So I could see a Julia Stoliarenko finish-only prop. I could see a Jessica Rose Clark decision-only prop. But I would stay away from just straight betting Clark, because you have to worry about her putting herself into a situation where Julia might be able to lock up an armbar, doing it on purpose, doing it voluntarily, and just making bad decisions. So I think the safest, my pick is going to be Jessica Rose Clark here by decision. And but I think that Stoliarenko finish only prop is an interesting way to look at things here. And I forgot to put the banner up here. We do see the Jessica Rose Clark. Now, this is the fattest line on her right now. You can get her at -150 in other spots, but all the lines that I have up here are courtesy of Bet Online. And Bet Online has Jessica Rose Clark at -170, Stoliarenko +145, and the fight doesn't go to decision, sitting at +170. So the pick is going to be Jessica Rose Clark by decision, and I actually think that the decision-only prop on Jessica Rose Clark might be a good bet this week. Next fight is the other female fight on this card. It is going to be Jessica Eye against Maycee Barber. And we got Jessica Eye as a pretty big underdog here at +220. Maycee Barber -260. The fight doesn't go to decision up here at +195. So we're going to see Maycee Barber 11 years younger than Jessica Eye here. So that's very significant. And Jessica's going to be a little bit bigger. She's 1 inch taller and has a 1 inch reach advantage. And it's Maycee Barber who's fighting out of both stances. Maycee's training all over the place. Team Alpha Male, Rufus Sport, and Valley Flow Striking. While Jessica Eye is over at Extreme Couture right now. Jessica is much more experienced, has 14 more professional fights, about 200 more minutes in the pro cage, 7 more years as a pro, 7 more UFC level fights, and about 120 more minutes in the UFC cage. And when it comes to the finish stats and the durability, it's definitely Maycee Barber who's the better finisher and more durable here, even though Jessica Eye is very durable. 70% finish rate for Maycee Barber, 27% finish rate for Jessica Eye. And at the UFC level, Jessica has only finished 1 of her 5 wins, while for Maycee Barber, it's 4 of her 6 wins. But Jess has been finished twice in 10 pro losses, and in her 9 losses at the UFC level, she's only been finished once. It was by Valentina Shevchenko. Maycee Barber's never been finished. Maycee Barber tore her ACL against Roxanne Modafferi and showed a tremendous amount of grit and heart in that fight to fight through that. Even though she lost the fight, you could tell that there's no quit in this girl and that she will fight for your money if you're betting on her. So definitely there's a lot to like here about Maycee Barber. She's young. She's starting to put it all together. Showed a great game plan against Montana De La Rosa, pinning her up against the cage. Great head position, getting that underhook and that head position on the same side as the underhook, right underneath that chin, throwing some nasty clinch striking there, dirty boxing. Really showed a great ability to be able to avoid what Montana does best, which is wrestle out in the open and use her top control to hunt for submissions and to win minutes. She really wasn't able to do that against Maycee. When we look at the striking numbers here, Jessica Eye throws more volume than her opponents. She gets outstruck by about 0.25 significant strikes per minute. But, 37% striking accuracy isn't very good, and she doesn't have that power. Maycee Barber doesn't have a knockdown either, though, even though she has some knockouts at the UFC level. 4.45 landed, only 2.69 absorbed, and she's throwing a lot more volume than her opponents, too. So you see she's been doing a very good job of winning minutes here on the feet. Both ladies have been knocked down. It looks like twice for Jessica Eye, once for Maycee Barber, and it's less than 0.2 knockdowns allowed per 15 minutes. When it comes to the grappling here, one thing that I noticed is that Maycee's very inefficient in her grappling numbers. 20% control time for, 27% control time allowed. So she's giving up more control time than she gets, despite the fact that she's attempted 25 takedowns and her opponents have only attempted 8. Now, Jessica has had 8 takedowns herself and has had her opponents take her down 18 times, and she's getting out-controlled at about a 2-to-1 ratio, a little bit less than that. So she's been a little more efficient on the ground, as, Jessica Eye has been taken down 18 times, and Maycee Barber's only been taken down 3, but yet Maycee Barber's been controlled 27% of her UFC career, while it's less than 21% for Jessica Eye. So Jessica's good at kind of keeping the fights at striking range, where she keeps fights close. In the strength of schedule here, we see that Eye has fought the better brand of competition and the more experienced brand of competition, and the wins are a little bit better here for Jessica Eye, and the losses are better as well. So we've just seen Jessica fight better competition overall here, as we see Valentina Shevchenko, Viviane Araújo, Cynthia Calvillo, Joanne Wood, Jennifer Maia are her last 5, while it's Jillian Robertson, Roxy, Alexa Grasso, Miranda Maverick, and Montana De La Rosa. So you see each of those opponents just kind of like a notch underneath what you see on the other side here, but still very good opponents for Maycee Barber. It's not like she's getting fed a bunch of bums here. She's fighting very good competition and beating Montana De La Rosa, Miranda Maverick, and Jillian Robertson are 3 very good wins. So I think that this fight is just a little bit lined too wide. I don't really see Maycee getting takedowns here and dominating Jessica on the mat. What I do see her doing is kind of marching forward, throwing big power strikes, and winning a lot of minutes up against the cage. And Jessica can be put there. But Jessica's going to be walking forward too. She throws a lot of volume, and I think that she can make this fight very, very close. So the pick's going to be Maycee Barber by decision. I think this fight definitely goes to decision. Both of these ladies are very durable, but I think you got to pay up around minus 250 for fight goes. So maybe it's a parlay piece if you're messing around with a few different legs or something like that. But I'm not laying minus 260 on Maycee Barber here. I think that plus 220 on Jessica Eye on the money line, or even better, if you can get better than plus 300 on Jessica Eye by decision, because I don't think she hasn't been finishing anybody at the UFC level really, and Maycee Barber is extremely tough. So if you do think Jessica Eye can make this close and greasy, and if you rightfully so have no confidence in the judging at the UFC level, why not take a flyer on Jessica Eye by decision? But the pick's going to be Maycee Barber to win this fight by decision. The next fight that we have here, Andre Muniz going up against Uriah Hall. This is the 3rd fight of the night. I mean, if this were a fight night card, this would be a co-main, I think. It would be main card at least. Excuse me. Got to keep wetting that whistle, you guys. I've been talking a lot this week. So you got to just let me get these drinks in every once in a while here and make sure that I've got enough fluid in the system to be able to do the full 2 hours of talking here. Now, we've got Uriah Hall is 5 years older than Andre Muniz. Muniz 1 inch taller. Hall a 1 inch of reach, and it's going to be southpaw versus orthodox here. Both of these guys have got a lot of fights. Hall's got a little bit of an experience advantage. He's got 1 more pro fight, but he's got 100 more minutes in the pro cage, about 3.5 more years as a pro. And he's also got 12 more UFC level fights in about 140 more minutes in the UFC cage. So the tail of the tape is close. Uriah Hall's got a nice little experience advantage here. Both of these guys are great finishers. 82% for Hall overall, 80% at the UFC level. And for Muniz here, it is 86% finish rate in 22 wins. And he's finished 4 of his 6 wins at the UFC level inside the distance, all of them by submission. Andre Muniz has been knocked out in all 4 of his losses. And Uriah Hall has been knocked out 4 times in 10 losses and 3 times in 8 UFC losses. So it's definitely Hall who's got the durability advantage here, and both of these guys are good finishers. It's a striker versus grappler matchup. If this fight stays on the feet, a guy like Andre Muniz, who's been knocked out in all 4 of his pro losses, is probably getting knocked out again, especially by a guy in Uriah Hall who's knocked out 8 of the 10 wins that he's gotten at the UFC level. So this is a guy who is going to, when it's on the feet, is going to be very dangerous. He's got a 1.27% knockdowns per total significant strikes landed, landing 0.66 knockdowns per 15 minutes. But if this fight goes to the ground, Andre Muniz is getting submissions at an alarming rate. He's averaging 3.6 takedowns per 15 minutes, 2.88 submissions per 15 minutes, submission attempts per 15 minutes. And his fights are in control time positions over 40% of the time. So, you know, it's hard to keep this guy in a spot where you can be comfortable on the feet if you're the striker. So if this thing is on the feet, Hall's going to be in great shape. If it's on the ground, Muniz is going to be very live for a submission. The fight doesn't go to decision sitting at -400. It tells you all you need to know about whether the bookies think that this thing is going to finish inside the distance or not. So, yeah, you've got, no matter where the fight goes, somebody's going to be extremely dangerous. There's a high potential for violence here. Uriah Hall has a clear strength of schedule advantage, a clear striking advantage, a little bit of a reach advantage, a nice experience advantage. Muniz has the youth. He's a southpaw. He's got the Brazilian jiu-jitsu. Uriah Hall has never been submitted, you guys. So that's an important thing to look at. We got a guy in Hall who's had 27 professional fights and he's never been submitted. So there is something to say for that, because in these 18 UFC fights, Uriah Hall has faced 49 takedown attempts, and you know he's been taken down 17 times. He's had 0.25 submission attempts attempted against him. So that's in 12. That would be 12. So he's had 3 submissions attempted against him in 18 fights. So, you know, I mean, but Muniz is kind of like on a different level, and he can still get arm bars. Well, when nobody gets arm bars anymore in men's MMA, Andre Muniz is getting arm bars. 3 in a row, I believe. He got Fabinski in the arm bar. He got Sosa. You heard Sosa's arm break. You heard snap when that brought, it was something else. And then Eric Anders, who tapped in time. So, yeah, wild stuff, man. This guy can absolutely get arm bars. He's very dangerous. Will he be the first to submit Uriah Hall? You know, the thing is that Muniz doesn't have the best conditioning. You know, if this thing gets out of the first round, you know, I think maybe the under 1.5 would be a good look in this fight, especially if you're on that Muniz side. I don't think he's getting a 3rd round submission here. I think he would have to get it early when they're both dry. But I'm going to pick Andre Muniz to win this by submission. He's younger. He's at a different point in his career right now. And, you know, he does have very good takedowns. And Uriah Hall hasn't done a fantastic job of stopping takedowns. 65% takedown defense. And he's been controlled for over 26% of his UFC cage time. So when he does get taken down, you can keep him there. You can work from there. So even though I like Hall's striking better, his experience better, his strength to schedule better, and his durability better, and I think he's very live for a knockout here. I think Andre Muniz's grappling is on another level, and I think even if he doesn't get that submission in the first round, he might be able to get another takedown in the second round and win that round too, and then just stay safe in round 3. So I'm going to pick Andre Muniz, but I'm going to pick him to win it inside the distance by submission. The next fight that we got here is a real banger. Dricus du Plessis against Brad Tavares. this is a very violent man here in Dricus du Plessis. He's got 18 professional fights, and all 18 of them have finished inside the distance. He's 6 years younger. They have the same height, and Dricus is going to have a 2-inch reach advantage, and he is a switch stance fighter. So we like all the tail of the tape numbers here for Dricus. Brad Tavares, 7 more pro fights, about 150 more minutes in the pro cage, and about 6 more years as a pro. And he's got 18 more fights at the UFC level and over 250 more minutes in the UFC cage. So definitely a nice experience advantage here for Tavares. Now, Tavares is going to be the more durable guy here, but Dricus du Plessis is definitely the better finisher. 16 wins, 9 of them by submission, 7 of them by knockout, a 100% finish rate for and against. And in his 2 losses, he's been submitted and he's been knocked out. Brad Tavares has been finishing 3 of his 6 losses, but he's not much of a finisher, especially at the UFC level. In 14 wins, he's only finished 2 of them. 12 wins here by decision. So we really do have a killer-be-killed fighter here in Dricus du Plessis against a guy in Tavares who's a great gatekeeper for that top 15 in the middleweight division, and a guy who, when somebody tries to grapple him, he has an amazing, phenomenal ability to keep the fight on the feet, to use his conditioning and takedown defense to make it a greasy striking battle. And he lands a lot of good low leg kicks. He's very tough. He's got great hands, and he doesn't have a lot of wasted movement when he strikes. He's very meat and potatoes, and I think that's a very good thing at this level to do what you do well, to not have a lot of fat in your game, and do what works, do it over and over again, and be defensively responsible. And Tavares is very good at doing all of those things. So du Plessis, the moment winner. Tavares, probably the minute winner. When we look at the numbers here, and this is over a 20-fight UFC sample size, everybody, Tavares lands more than he absorbs, landing 3.18, absorbing 2.76, throwing 1 more significant strike attempt per minute, landing 4 knockdowns in 20 fights, so he's showing a decent amount of power, 58% striking defense, but he has been knocked down 6 times in 20 fights. So, he's landed 4 knockdowns, but he's gotten knocked down 6. So he is a guy who can be knocked down, a guy who can be knocked out. And Dricus du Plessis is definitely a guy who can absolutely hurt people on the feet here, as he's done it twice so far at the UFC level in only 2 fights. He's throwing a lot more volume than his opponents, 10.55 thrown, 7.46 coming back his way. He's outlanding his opponents at better than a 2-to-1 ratio here, 5.07 to 2.39, 68% striking defense, 3.92% knockdowns for total significant strikes landed. So that means he's had 4 knockdowns in only 2 fights. That is very, very impressive. Or I'm sorry, no, that would be 8%. It's 2 knockdowns in 2 fights, but still very impressive. So great power numbers here for du Plessis. Definitely will be the better moment winner on the feet. And in terms of minute winning on the feet, I think it'll actually be close. Du Plessis, 15.9% control time for, only 2% control time against. And Tavares has been out-controlled by his opponents, but he's very efficient on the ground. His opponents have attempted 97 takedowns. Brad has only attempted 59. But still, he's getting 16% control time for and only allowing 20% control time against. So despite the fact that his opponents are almost takedown attempting him 2-to-1, they're only out-controlling him about 1.25 to 1. So Tavares has been very efficient, and that 80% takedown defense has been excellent, only allowing 1.14 takedowns for 15 minutes. So Tavares has not been active getting his takedowns, only 3 takedown attempts per fight, and only 27% takedown accuracy, less than 1 takedown per 15 minutes. So I do see this fight taking place on the feet, and I see it being very close. Tavares is a very good kickboxer, and he's fought against some really good ones here at the UFC level. He's a lot more experienced than du Plessis. He's fought the far better brand of competition here. And, he's just faced more well-rounded fighters like Akhmedov, Antonio Carlos Jr., He got knocked out by Shabazian. Went 5 rounds with Israel Adesanya. Beat a very, very good minute winner in Krzysztof Jotko. While we see, the loss to Soldic, but he's also got a win over Soldic too, does du Plessis. But that was at 170 pounds, a little bit different there. Up here at 185, we see he's finished his last 4 wins, 3 by knockout, 1 by submission. But the level of competition isn't the same here. This fight, because du Plessis has had 18 fights that have finished inside the distance. Let's take a quick look over here at the prop template, you guys. And we're going to go to the du Plessis fight because we see here 18 of 18 fights finishing inside the distance here for Dricus du Plessis. 28 of their 43 combined pro fights have finished inside the distance. Now, here at the UFC level, only 5 of 20 fights for Brad Tavares have finished inside the distance. But du Plessis, it's 2 out of 2. So the fight doesn't go to decision at plus 105. It has a 48.78% implied probability, but middleweight fights finish at 55.46% of the time. So that's a 6.68% edge over the divisional benchmark, which is 55%. So that's really good to get that when you've got a guy who in 18 pro fights has never seen the scorecards. So we've got a killer be killed fighter that's actually underpriced when we compare the divisional finish rate to the implied probability. So I have a 1-unit bet on the fight doesn't go to decision for this fight because Dricus has been finished in both of his losses. So just because Tavares hasn't been finishing at the UFC level, this is still a guy who's been fighting on the South African regional scene mostly. And he did go to KSW. It's not a great promotion, You come here and you beat Marcus Perez, but you lost the minutes up until you landed that weird shot. And then against Trevin Giles, it was close. I thought he easily won that first round, I should say. Trevin didn't look great there, but Trevin started to land some good shots before Dricus landed that big counter, that big right-hand counter, which just slept Trevin. So I think that there's a good chance that, Tavares can win this fight, can win some minutes, but I think that Dricus is not particularly durable, so we could see a finish out of Tavares, but I think if Dricus wins, we're very likely to see a knockout because Tavares has been knocked out 3 times, and Dricus has 16 wins inside the distance, so he's definitely a guy who's looking to finish inside the distance. So I love this plus 105 for fight doesn't go to decision, despite the fact that only 7 of their 22 combined UFC fights have finished inside the distance. We do have a killer be killed fighter here in du Plessis. So I am telling people to bet the fight doesn't go to decision. And I'm going to pick Brad Tavares to win this fight. I think he's a little bit better everywhere. I think it's going to be a big step up in competition for Dricus. But I would not be surprised at all to see Dricus knock this dude out. But the bet that I'm making, where I do have my money confidently, is the fight doesn't go to decision at plus 105. The next fight is going to be Gabe Green versus Ian Garry. And we've got the lines here. Gabe Green sitting at plus 160 right now on Bet Online. Ian Garry minus 185. The fight doesn't go to decision at minus 120. Okay. Let's look at these numbers. So we love everything that we're seeing here for Ian Garry in the tail of the tape. 5 years younger. Although that's not necessarily an advantage because Gabe Green is only 29. But he's 4 inches taller. He's got a 1-inch reach advantage. Gabe Green does fight out of both stances, though. Ian Garry's been training at Sanford MMA while it's Subfighter MMA for Gabe Green. Gabe Green's got the experience advantage with 5 more pro fights, 7.5 more minutes in the pro cage, and almost 3 more years as a pro. And he's got 1 more UFC level fight, 20 more minutes in the UFC cage. Gabe Green is the better finisher here, but it's Ian Garry who's been more durable because he's never lost. Excuse me. So 91% finish rate here for Gabe Green. 67% finish rate for Ian Garry. And Gabe has been finished in 2 of his 3 losses. He's been knocked out. Garry landing 1.5 more significant strikes per minute than he absorbs. and throwing about 2.3 more significant strike attempts per minute than his opponents are, while Green is getting outlanded 6.61 to 6.28, while he outvolumes his opponents by about one more significant strike attempt per minute. Neither one of these guys is good defensively. 49.5% for Green, 51% here for Garry. And we've got Green has been knocked down at the UFC level once, while Garry has never been knocked down. But we got a small sample size for both of these guys. Green's attempted 2 takedowns, gotten them both, but he's shown very poor takedown defense here at 54%, and he's given up 20% control time thus far at the UFC level. So that's 8 minutes of control time on 5 takedowns. So over a minute of control time allowed per takedown thus far. He's allowing 1.92 takedowns per 15 minutes while only getting 0.77, and he's getting out-controlled at a 2-to-1 ratio, while Garry is getting out-controlled at a 3-to-1 ratio, and he's only given up 1 takedown. But I think a lot of it was on the fence, but I'm not exactly sure. Unfortunately, the UFC stats does not differentiate between cage control time and ground control time. Gabe Green with the better ratio here, more total fights, a little bit of a strength of schedule advantage. But like I say, neither one of these guys has much experience at the UFC level. So Garry, much bigger. He's going to be the better striker. But Gabe Green's a guy who has got great cardio. He's got really good submission grappling, and he walks forward and throws a ton of volume. But at that being said, he's very hittable. He's very hittable. And Ian Garry's got a lot of power. We saw that one shot land against Jordan Williams, just ended his night. And it was just a case of Williams getting too out over his feet. You know, he was throwing that first strike at Ian Garry, but he was throwing in combination because Gary's got that tall man defense. So he will walk back forward with his chin straight up in the air. So you saw Jordan throwing that first one, but then there'd be the second one and the third one right behind it. But he was getting his head way out over his feet, and he was just chasing him with his arms, and he wasn't really bringing his feet with him when he was walking forward. So he got the first strike missed, and instead of Garry just backing up, he countered with a straight right and just ended the night. I could see Ian Garry landing a big shot here on Gabe Green. And the thing about that worries me about Green in this spot is that we saw Green against Leoness. He got hurt. He got banged up there in that fight. And Leoness actually took him down a couple of times, won some minutes on top. But Leoness is a guy who's got a ton of power. And when Green didn't go away right away, he gassed out. That's not going to happen to Ian Garry. Ian Garry's very well conditioned, very young, in excellent shape. If he goes out there with a really big round 1 and he doesn't finish him, he'll be there in round 2 and round 3 to be able to continue doing what he did. And I'm just seeing too many holes in Gabe Green's game right now. The takedown defense is not there. The striking defense is not there. What is there is the conditioning, the forward pressure, the volume, and the submission grappling. Just because you take him down doesn't mean that he's not going to be able to threaten with submissions, threaten with sweeps, and potentially even get on top of you and work for a submission of his own. So, I think Gabe Green's got some really good parts to his game, and he's obviously very game, and he's very durable, but he has been knocked out twice. And I can see Ian Garry landing that big shot here. So but Garry at minus 185 does not interest me. I think Gabe Green does a lot of things well, and he can make a fight very greasy, good low leg kicks, but not very good fight IQ. He had Rowe hurt with those low leg kicks and then wound up following him to the ground after he knocked him down with a leg kick. The guy couldn't stand anymore. Really poor fight IQ. And that was the only fight he didn't finish. So I think the fight doesn't go to decision will be a good look here because both of these guys, bring a pretty good pace. Both of them have a lot of power, and both of them are slick on the ground too. But, I think Green will actually be a little bit better on the ground. I'd feel a lot better about betting Garry to win this fight if I knew he'd wrestle, because if I knew if he wrestled, he'd get takedowns and he would be able to win minutes there. And I think he can win minutes on the feet here too. But I'm going to pick Garry. I'm going to pick him to win this one. I'll say by decision, even though I think the fight doesn't go to decision is actually a good bet here at -120. You got a killer be killed fighter here in Gabe Green. You see that 18 of their 23 combined fights have finished inside the distance. That's 78%. So there's a lot of green there. And at the UFC level, only 2 of 5 have finished inside the distance. But we do see that 78% finish rate over here. I think that's excellent. So, and that's, a 48% finish rate for the division. So we're only overpaying by about 4.86% based on the divisional finish rate compared to the implied probability of the line. And we've got a guy in Gabe Green whose fights are finishing inside the distance 12 of 14 times, and it's 6 of 9 for Garry. So, yeah, I like the fight doesn't go to decision here, and I like the Garry side, but I won't be betting it. The next fight, we got Jim Miller, -200 against Donald Cerrone, +170. Fight doesn't go to decision, sitting at -195. Let's see here. Give me just a second. No, got to. Got Dan in the room here, and then I'm just going to do this. And let's see here. All right. Sweet. Now, I don't know what to do with this fight, guys. I'm not going to be putting money on it, but I think the line is entirely too wide, man. I think that the people who are betting Jim Miller here are just assuming that Donald Cerrone is not even going to show up to this fight. Because I think when we go through the numbers here, you'll kind of see the reasons why it doesn't seem right to bet Jim Miller unless you think that this guy is just completely washed right now, Cerrone I'm talking about, and that Miller should be able to go through him here at 170. So, yeah, man, this is an interesting fight, but it's not one I'm going to be touching from a gambling perspective here. But 39 for Cerrone, 38 for Miller, but Cerrone much taller here, 5 inches taller, 2-inch reach advantage. He's got 3 more pro fights, 10 more minutes in the cage. It's Miller with 2 more UFC fights and 31 more minutes in the UFC cage. Both of these guys have 23 wins at the UFC level. So I think it was Clint brought this up last night. Whoever wins this fight is going to be the UFC record holder for most wins in the UFC. So there is something at stake here. And if we look at these striking numbers, right? Cerrone lands 4.93, absorbs 5.14, throws about the same amount of volume. Very good power numbers. I believe that's 19 knockdowns in 37 fights, while Jim Miller has 5 knockdowns in 39 fights. So 14 more knockdowns for Donald Cerrone at the UFC level. 47% striking accuracy for Cerrone, 41% for Miller. And, we see that big knockdowns number there for Cerrone as comparison to Miller. Much better striking defense for Miller at 59%, and 51% for Cerrone isn't good. Miller has done really well with the grappling. 50% of his fights are taking place in controlled time positions. Only about 16% of Donald Cerrone's fights take place in controlled time positions. And Donald Cerrone's got 90% takedown defense. So Jim Miller is a guy who has attempted less than 2.5 takedowns per fight, and he gets about 1.61 takedowns per 15 minutes, attempts 1.77 submissions per 15 minutes. But he doesn't out-control his opponents. He's not like this master of winning minutes on the ground. He does get submissions, but Donald Cerrone is an excellent submission grappler in his own right. If we look at the strength of schedule numbers here, you're going to see an advantage here for Donald Cerrone in ratio and total fights, and the wins are a little bit better here, 1.52 to 1.23, and 16.65 total fights to 13. So I like Cerrone striking. I like his strength of schedule. I like his size. The experience is even. The grappling is even. Jim Miller is going to have to win a striking match, you guys. He's not taking down Donald Cerrone. And he's smaller than Donald Cerrone. This fight's taking place at 170. It's not at 155. So he's going to be at a big size disadvantage here. Cerrone's fought most of his career at 170, while Miller's just been a 155 pounder. So, and for everybody out there that's saying Donald Cerrone's washed, if you're betting Jim Miller, you're laying minus 200 juice on a 38-year-old fighter. So I'm not telling you run to the window and bet Cerrone here, because I don't know what's in his heart. I don't know if he really wants to lock in that UFC wins record. I don't know if he really wants to win this fight or if he's just showing up for a check. But I think that the people who are betting on Miller are just making that assumption, and it's dangerous to assume. So I'm actually going to pick Donald Cerrone to win this fight by second round knockout. But I think fight doesn't go to decision is a good look for this fight. The narrative in particular, when you got a 38 and a 39-year-old, it feels good to bet the fight doesn't go, just because you're betting that one of them maybe does have one of their feet out the door, and if things get tough, they're going to look for that door. So excuse me. So yeah, I'm picking Cerrone here. I'm not betting it. I don't think you should either. And even minus 195 for fight doesn't go. It's a little bit juiced up. You're really overpaying in comparison to the divisional finish rate, which is only about 50%, 49%. You're paying 66%. Yeah, I'm staying away from this one, you guys. I think you should too. But the pick is going to be Donald Cerrone by second round knockout. And then we got an absolute banger here. Brad Riddell going up against Jalen the Tarantula Turner. Great fight between two very exciting all-action fighters. Jalen Turner, 3 years younger. Jalen Turner, I don't know how he makes 155. I think he's cheating somehow, but I can't prove it. But he's 6'3" with a 77-inch reach in the lightweight division. That's just not fair. He's got a 6-inch reach advantage and a 8-inch height advantage here over Brad Riddell. He's also got 5 more pro fights than Riddell. But Riddell has about 15 more minutes in the pro cage and about 2.5 more years as a pro, and about 21 more minutes in the UFC cage as well. Riddell has, even though Jalen Turner's got 3 more fights. Look at that average fight time for Jalen Turner, man, 6.5 minutes. He either kills you or gets killed at the UFC level, and he is finishing fights at an alarming rate. Jalen Turner has a 100% finish rate as a pro. Brad Riddell has a 50% finish rate as a pro. Brad Riddell, in his 4 UFC wins, has never finished, while Jalen Turner has finished all 6 of his UFC wins inside the distance, 4 by knockout, 2 by submission. Jalen Turner's been finished in 3 of his 5 losses, and Brad Riddell has been finished in both of his losses. So Turner definitely the more durable guy here and the better finisher, the much bigger guy and the more experienced guy on fights. When we look at the striking numbers here, Riddell lands about 1.2 more significant strikes per minute than he absorbs. He lands at a 53% rate. He gets 1 knockdown in 5 fights, and he's never been knocked down, showing a 53% striking defense. Not great. Turner lands 6.5 and absorbs 4.34, but he throws 5 more significant strike attempts per minute than his opponents do. And he's landing a knockdown on 1.5% of the significant strikes that he lands. So 5 knockdowns in 8 fights in comparison to 1 knockdown in 5 fights for Riddell. And Turner has been knocked down once, and he's shown some really bad striking defense here at 44%. So that's going to be something that Brad Riddell will be able to take advantage of if he can close the distance here against Turner. But that is going to be tricky. In terms of the grappling, Riddell has been spending a lot of time in control time positions for a kickboxer, about 36%. And he's getting out-controlled almost at a 2-to-1 ratio here. But his opponents are attempting almost 2 takedowns for every 1 that Riddell takes. So he's not tremendously inefficient here on the ground, but He is allowing 3.11 takedowns per 15 minutes, and he is getting controlled almost 24% of his UFC career thus far. Now, Turner has had 26 takedowns attempted on him, and Turner's only attempted 5, but somehow he's managed to out-control his opponents 19% to 14%. 77% takedown defense for Turner, 80% takedown accuracy. So, yeah, Turner is very good, very efficient on the ground, and he's such a big dude that he can get submissions in areas where other people can't. He's, being 6'3" at this weight class is just not fair at all, but it's something that Jalen Turner keeps making weight. I don't know how long he's going to be able to continue making weight. He's just, as he gets older and older, it's going to be harder to do, but as long as he's making 156, man, he is an absolute problem, and it all shows in the numbers here. If we look at the strength of schedule, Jalen Turner fighting the better win-loss ratio competition, but it's Riddell who's fighting the more experienced competition. The wins better in ratio for Turner, better in experience for Riddell, and these guys are both losing to very good fighters. So we've got a situation here where Riddell is going to be facing an absolutely gigantic man. He's going to be 5'7" to Jalen Turner 6'3". He's going to be at a 6-inch reach disadvantage, and he's fighting a southpaw on top of that. And one of the things that I've really seen Turner do well is use those step-in knees when his opponents are trying to close that distance. There are just so many weapons. There are so many ways for Jalen Turner to dominate this fight. And, he's still only 27 years old. So I think Jalen's at the point now where we're actually starting to see him put it all together. And that's scary. It's very scary at this level. I've got a 1.5 unit bet already on Jalen Turner's money line. I got it at minus 125 on Caesars early yesterday. I think he's sitting around minus 150 everywhere else right about now. I think that's getting a little bit wide. Brad Riddell is an excellent, excellent kickboxer, and he might be able to find ways to win minutes on the feet here. But I don't think he's taken down Jalen Turner. Even if he does, I don't think he's going to be able to do much with it. And I frankly, I don't know if he would even be in submission difficulty because Jalen Turner is just such a difficult challenge to deal with that height, that size. And, he gets on top of people, and his top control is excellent. So I really like Jalen Turner everywhere here. I'm picking him to win this fight. I think he's going to knock out Brad Riddell probably in the second or third round. And I'm very confident that Jalen Turner is going to get another win here, stack another win like flapjacks, and move on to the next. And I don't think a lot of people are going to be calling out his name because he is a very interesting problem to try to solve in this UFC lightweight middle class, in this lightweight class, because I don't know how the hell you make, 155 pounds when you're 6'3" with a 77-inch reach, but Jalen Turner manages to do it, and that's the problem of the UFC lightweight division right now, you guys. Next fight, very good fight here. Pedro Munhoz against Sean O'Malley. Oh, man, I can't wait for this one. Can't wait for the return of the Sugar Show, one of the most exciting fighters in the UFC here. He's got a big-time youth and size advantage here as he's 8 years younger, 5 inches taller, with a 7-inch reach advantage, and he switches stances. MMA Lab for Sean O'Malley, ATT for Pedro Munhoz. Munhoz has got the experience advantage here with about 11 more fights, about 320 more minutes in the cage, and about 6 more years as a pro. And he's also got 8 more UFC level fights and over 100 more minutes in the UFC cage. We've got Munhoz here with a 68% finish rate overall and a 66% finish rate at the UFC level. And for O'Malley, it's an 80% finish rate overall, and he's won 6 of his 8 UFC wins by knockout. Pedro Munhoz has never been finished in his career. He's an incredibly durable human being, and Sean O'Malley has been finished in his only loss as he had a leg injury against Marlon Vera. Look at the striking numbers here. I see Sean O'Malley easily winning minutes on the feet here. And you see the numbers, 8.26 landed, only 3.52 absorbed. He throws about 2.5 more significant strike attempts per minute than his opponents do, showing 66% striking defense, 63% striking accuracy. He's landed 7 knockdowns in 9 fights, and he's never been knocked down. And Munhoz has landed about 6 knockdowns in 17 fights. He's got a 44% striking accuracy. He absorbs about 0.6 more significant strikes per minute than he lands, and his opponents are throwing about 2 more significant strikes per minute than Pedro is. So Sean O'Malley will probably be throwing more volume. He's probably going to be a lot more accurate and powerful, and he's also 5 inches taller and has a 7-inch reach advantage, and he switches stances. And then, you're like, wow, can Pedro win minutes, grappling? The answer to that is no. He's only attempted 2 takedowns per fight. He's only gotten 7 takedowns in 17 UFC fights, and he's managed less than 5.5% control time for in 184 minutes in the UFC cage. So that's basically 9 minutes of control time for Pedro Munhoz on 34 takedown attempts. So Pedro doesn't wrestle. He doesn't control people up against the cage. He kind of throws bombs, hopes to make you uncomfortable, hopes that you shoot it on a takedown, and then he goes for that guillotine and tries to submit you, or he tries to kick your leg off, or he tries to throw a big overhand right and knock you out. Sean O'Malley should be able to really, in a big cage especially, style on this dude. Make it look easy. I think Sean O'Malley is going to make this look very easy. It's going to be a striking match. As long as Sean O'Malley's calves stay safe from the low leg kicks of Pedro Munhoz, he should coast to an easy 30-26 victory here, I'm thinking. I think he even gets a 10-8 at some point, just by volume, by power. But Pedro Munhoz isn't going anywhere. He's incredibly durable. You can hit this dude in the face with a shovel, and he will just keep walking forward. So Sean O'Malley, by decision, I got him at plus 200 earlier in the week, and I put a full unit on it. And I also have the fight goes to decision at plus 120 on Caesars for this fight, due to the fact that I think Pedro Munhoz is incredibly durable. And while I think there's finishing equity for Munhoz here, because if he lands those leg kicks on those neuro-ass legs of Sean O'Malley, that, O'Malley might have another leg injury here. His calf might shut down. And if that happens, Munhoz can finish him. But what I really see happening is Sean just boxing this dude up for the full 3 rounds and coasting to an easy decision here. The finish-only prop on Pedro Munhoz, I'm waiting for that to drop on DraftKings. I don't think anybody's finishing Pedro Munhoz ever. So I think that if Pedro lands a big overhand right or lands some calf kicks or gets him in a guillotine, those are 3 ways that we could see Pedro finish the fight. So at better than plus 200, I like the Pedro finish-only prop, but I see this fight going to decision, and I see Sean O'Malley winning that decision easily. So while I have one unit on O'Malley by decision and 1 unit on the fight doesn't go to decision, I'm also planning on betting 1 unit on the Pedro Munhoz finish-only prop. So if Munhoz does finish, those 2 units that I lose on O'Malley by decision and the fight goes to decision will be covered by the 2.25 units I would win by Munhoz getting the finish. So I would still only win 0.25 units, but I would save myself that 2-unit loss if Pedro did somehow find a way to finish Sean O'Malley here. But I see the finishing equity all on one side, Pedro Munhoz, and I'm picking Sean O'Malley to win this one by decision. Next fight. Bryan Barberena versus Robbie Lawler. Man, oh man. So I don't know what to do with this fight. 40-year-old Robbie Lawler, who's on his way out, and a 33-year-old Bryan Barberena, who's already talking about retirement, has talked about it already in prior fights. Both of these guys are right at the end of their careers, for real. And I don't know which one of these careers is going to end first. And it could end in the cage on Saturday. If one of these guys loses, they might just leave their gloves in there. They've both been through a lot. So Barberena an inch taller, but Lawler has the 2-inch reach advantage. It's a southpaw versus southpaw matchup, but Barberena 7 years younger. But in cage years, Lawler 457 minutes of cage time, 273 for Barberena, 21 years as a pro mixed martial artist for Robbie Lawler. He's been fighting since he was 18. Barberena almost 13 years in the game. 10 more UFC level fights for Lawler, 125, almost 135 more minutes in the UFC cage. Both of these guys finish at 75%. Barberena gets finished less than Lawler does. What I see here, though, on the aggregate is that Barberena wins minutes on the feet and Lawler loses minutes on the feet. Lawler 4.04 landed, 4.87 absorbed. 11.8 is the amount of significant strike attempts that Lawler's opponents throw. Lawler only throws 8.47. Now, Barberena lands more than he absorbs. 5.61 landed, 4.83 absorbed, and almost, about 2.5 more significant strikes thrown per minute for Barberena. So Barberena throws more than his opponents. Lawler throws less than his opponents. Barberena lands more than his opponents. Lawler lands less than his opponents. They both land with equal power here. And Barberena probably been a little bit more chinny, but Barberena been a lot more defensively irresponsible here, as Lawler's got a 58.7% striking defense and Barberena only a 45% striking defense. Neither one of these guys grapples or wins minutes in the grappling. 10.4% control time for Lawler, 9.5 for Barberena, 8 takedown attempts in 13 fights for Barberena, 23 takedown attempts for Lawler in 23 fights. Strength of schedule, better ratio for Barberena, more experienced opponents for Lawler, and very close on the wins here at edge Lawler's wins. The losses maybe a little bit better for Barberena, but very close. This fight is very close. Two washed fighters, two guys that are pretty much maybe 2 fights left in each of their careers. Hard to know where their heads are at. Very close line, too. -120 for Lawler, +100 for Barberena. Fight doesn't go to decision, sitting at +135. Both of these guys are pretty durable. It's only a 3-round fight. Lawler's been in a lot of 5-round fights. Yeah, I don't have a read on this one at all, you guys. I'm picking Bryan Barberena. I'll pick him to win by decision with 0 confidence, with 0 money on the fight. And the great thing about this fight is it's going to be a really fun fight. It's going to be a banger. So why not just sit back and watch it if you don't have a strong lean one way or another? If you do, have at it. I don't. So I'm staying away. I'm picking Barberena by decision, but completely staying away. This is a fight I will not be staying away from. This is my favorite fight on the card. Alex Poatang Pereira going up against Sean Strickland. Fight doesn't go to decision, -190. Pereira, -115. Sean Strickland, -105. So Pereira, the much bigger guy here. He's 3 inches taller, and he's got a 4-inch reach advantage. That's what I like for Pereira. And the striking, obviously, for Pereira. Being a world champion glory kickboxer, the guy's striking is next level. But Sean Strickland's the younger man here. He's 3 years younger. He's got 22 more mixed martial arts fights, 230 more minutes in the pro cage, and about almost 8 more years as a pro mixed martial artist. 13 more UFC level fights, 187 more minutes in the UFC cage. It's Pereira who's the better finisher, finishing 80% of his wins, and he's been finished in his only loss via submission. And Strickland has a 56% finish rate as a pro, only a 33% finish rate, though, at the UFC level, winning 4 of his 12 wins inside the distance. Strickland's been knocked out once in 28 fights. It was by Elizeu Zaleski dos Santos at 170 pounds. Alex Pereira, in his only loss, was submitted by a man named Quelmel Atoni. Now, when we look at these striking numbers, great numbers for Pereira here. Throws 2 more significant strike attempts per minute than his opponents do. Lands almost 3 more significant strikes per minute than his opponents do. 60% accurate. He has a knockdown in 2 fights and showing 61% striking defense and never been knocked down. Now, Sean Strickland here is landing 5.53 and absorbing less than 4. he throws 2 more significant strike attempts than his opponents do. And he's got 41% striking accuracy. He's landed 4 knockdowns. Yeah, 4 knockdowns in 15 fights, 0.29 knockdowns for 15 minutes, showing 65.87% striking defense, and he's been knocked down twice in 15 fights. Strickland, decent grappler, getting his takedowns at 61.5%, but he's not active with the grappling, only attempting 26 takedowns in 15 fights, 1.16 takedowns for 15 minutes, and he's out-controlling his opponents 12% to 7%. So about 80% of Sean Strickland's fights are taking place at striking range, while for Pereira, it's about 58% because he's been very easy to control. Pereira doesn't attempt takedowns, but he has had 15 attempted on him in 2 fights. He's been controlled for over a third of the UFC cage time that he's been in there, and he's getting taken down 2.96 times for 15 minutes. So Alex Pereira has given up minutes on the ground. He lost round 1 to Andreas Miaulidis, one of the worst middleweights in the entire UFC. And then Miaulidis completely gassed out after 1 round like he always does, and then Pereira finished him. So, huge step up in competition here for Alex Pereira. Sean Strickland, by far the best pro that he's ever fought. I mean, a really impressive win, though, for Pereira against Bruno Silva. But when I went back and I watched that fight, it was a lot closer than I remember. I thought Bruno Silva won the first round. I thought the striking exchanges were actually pretty close. I was expecting Pereira's kickboxing to just look miles ahead of everybody else in the division, and I just haven't seen that yet. But what I have seen out of Strickland is really good numbers, and this is what I did here. I took all of Strickland's numbers, and I took out all the 170-pound fights. And when you take out the 170-pound fights, some interesting numbers here. 68.2% striking defense. 45% striking accuracy. He's landing 6.51 and absorbing only 4.03. Out-controlling his opponents 11% to 1.37%. And as a middleweight, Sean Strickland is undefeated at 7-0. And his last 4 wins are against guys with winning records. 8-2 Brendan Allen, 11-5 Christoph Jotko, one of the most feared strikers in the middleweight division, one of the best kickboxers, Uriah Hall. He dominated him from pillar to post. And then Jack Hermanson. So Sean Strickland is fully capable of winning minutes on the feet here, in my opinion. I know that Pereira is the more credentialed kickboxer, that he's the bigger guy, the longer guy, the more powerful guy. But if Strickland marches him down on the feet, crowds the kicker, and uses that great head movement of his, uses that great footwork of his to play defense, continues to defend strikes here at about 68, 69%, I don't see why he can't, make this fight close on the feet. And then when he does mix in the wrestling because of Pereira's horrible grappling, he should be able to clearly win minutes and win rounds here if he wants to. So I think that, Alex Pereira's bigger, stronger, more powerful, the better kickboxer. Everything else is Sean Strickland. Sean Strickland is younger. He's more experienced. He's fought way more at the UFC level. He's more durable. He's fought the much better brand of competition, beaten the much better brand of competition, and he's way more well-rounded, and he's extremely confident. So I like Sean Strickland here. I think Sean Strickland is winning this fight. I'm going to pick him to win. I'm going to bet him to win this fight. And I think he probably actually gets it done inside the distance. Once he gets this guy down, I think he's going to ground and pound him out or submit him. So I'm picking Sean Strickland. I'm picking him to win inside the distance by second-round submission. And I think it's going to be one of my favorite fights of the year because there's a lot of hype on both of these guys. And Alex Pereira, they're trying to get him that rematch against Adesanya. They want that to happen. UFC brass wants that to happen. And they're doing everything they can to feed him to guys that won't grapple him at all. But Sean Strickland is well-rounded enough that he's kept that in his back pocket. If he wants to grapple here, it's open for him, and he can do it and do it successfully. So I'm picking him to win this fight. Got 2 more fights to break down, you guys. Hang on a second here. 156 people of you guys hanging out in here with me today. I can't believe it, man. That is unbelievable. And let's see here. Wow. Yeah, I'm just kind of like going through the comments here just to make sure I didn't miss out on any donations or anything like that. But wow, 156 of you guys in here killing it with your Uncle Weezy. I appreciate each and every one of you for hanging out on a Tuesday night, breaking down all 12 of these fights on the UFC 276 card from a stats perspective, from a tape study perspective, figure out ways to stack cash tickets like flapjacks. Let's break down these last two championship fights here, and then we'll get to a greasy four-leg parlay, which I have ready for you, and then we're going to finish up with Uncle Weezy's ass shaving of the week. Let's get it. All right, so we've got the first of the two title fights, Alexander Volkanovski at -210, going up against Max Holloway, +180. Fight doesn't go to decision, sitting at +160. So Holloway younger, taller, but has a 2-inch reach disadvantage here against Alexander Volkanovski. 4 more pro fights for Holloway, about 150 more minutes in the pro cage, and about almost 2 more years as a pro, 14 more UFC level fights, and over 200 more minutes in the UFC cage. Volkanovski, a much better finisher here at 63% compared to 52% for Holloway. Holloway, though, finishing better at the UFC level, is he's got a 58% finish rate, while it's only 36% for Volkanovski. Volkanovski's been finishing his only loss, came a long, long time ago, and Max Holloway has been finished in one of his 6 losses. It was by submission. So when we look at the numbers here, both of these guys are putting up video game numbers in the striking. Volkanovski actually has a 2-to-1 significant strike landed to significant strike absorbed ratio. It's not quite that good for Holloway, but Holloway throws a lot more volume than his opponent's 15.6 to 11.8, while it's 11.5 for Volkanovski, and his opponents throw about 8.5. Both of these guys striking defense north of 60%. Between these two guys, they've only been knocked down once in something like 2,300 significant strikes absorbed. It's just legendary durability for both of these guys. And, you know, Holloway doesn't grapple at all, and Volkanovski really doesn't grapple anymore. But if there's one guy that's more likely to wrestle and win minutes doing so, it's definitely Alexander Volkanovski here. And then if we look at the strength of schedule here, we see a nice little advantage for Volkanovski, 2.61 to 2.03, and a similar amount of total fights. The wins better, 2.61 to 1.72 for Holloway, and Holloway has losses, Volkanovski doesn't. So, yeah, Volkanovski with that 2-inch reach advantage. He's won this fight twice, but it's been close. You know, it was close the first time. It was close the second time. There were people arguing that Max Holloway could have been given both fights. This is a tough one. You know, I think that Volkanovski probably gets the job done. That's the most likely path here. We don't want to ever get lazy and just, you know, it's easy to get lazy, you know, when there's been a rematch or a trilogy and just say, it's just going to go like the first one went, or it's going to go like the first 2 went in this case, because the first 2 were very similar. But because neither one of these guys really grapples, because both of these guys are so ridiculously durable, it's kind of hard to see this going any other way, but then just being a 25-minute striking battle again. And Volkanovski just seems to be, first of all, Holloway's missed weight a couple of times, you know, had to pull out on weeks of fights. It just seems like he's not quite as healthy. He's not quite as ready to make the weight as Volkanovski is. And that last performance against the Korean Zombie by Volkanovski was unbelievable. I think he's about as good as he can get right now. Both of these guys are in their prime, 33 for Volkanovski, 30 for Holloway. So, you know, I think it's going to be Alexander Volkanovski. I think he wins this one by decision. I don't think anybody's really ever finishing Max Holloway unless they submit him, choke him out, because the guy is stupid tough and he's got legendary durability. But I have to go with Alexander Volkanovski to win this fight by decision. Am I laying -210 on the money line for him? No. What is the decision prop, though, on Volk? Volkanovski by decision. Not plus money. That's not terrible. Plus 115 on FanDuel, plus 120 on DraftKings. We can get away with that. That's not bad, man. Yeah, that'll be the pick. It'll be Alexander Volkanovski by decision and still. And then we've got the main event, you guys. Israel Adesanya versus Jared Cannonier. Adesanya minus 450. Cannonier plus 350. Fight doesn't go to decision, minus 120 for this one. So we love the tail of the tape here for Adesanya. He's 6 years younger. He's 5 inches taller. He has a 3-inch reach advantage. Both of these guys switch stances. Coming out of that city kickboxing camp. MMA lab for Cannonier here. 3 more fights for Adesanya. About 110 more minutes in the cage for Adesanya. About 80 more minutes in the UFC cage. So he's got a nice little experience advantage here over Jared. In terms of finish rates, Jared the better finisher, but Jared has been finished. So Adesanya more durable, Jared Cannonier the better finisher here. 75% finish rate at the UFC level, while only 36% for Adesanya. 68% overall for Adesanya, 80% for Cannonier. And Cannonier has been knocked out in 2 of his 5 losses, while Israel Adesanya has never been finished. All right. Adesanya lands about 1.3 more significant strikes per minute than he absorbs, throws 1 more significant strike attempt per minute than his opponents do, landing a knockdown on 1.5% of the significant strikes that he's landing. That's 12 knockdowns in 12 UFC fights. Jared Cannonier has 5 knockdowns in 13 UFC fights, and he's landing about a half more significant strike per minute than he absorbs, but his opponents are outthrowing him by about 1.5 significant strike attempts per minute here. And he's been knocked down 5 times in 13 fights. So there's definitely a path here for Israel Adesanya to knock this dude down, to knock him out. He's been knocked out before, and Adesanya does show precision striking. But what he doesn't show is any kind of urgency. And he needs to be extremely confident that his opponent, that he can absorb his opponent's strikes before he starts to even get remotely urgent, like he's pretending like he wants to finish the fight. And with a guy like Cannonier, a guy that's got enough power to make you think twice, I don't think we're going to see Adesanya landing that big shot. I think we're going to see him winning minutes here. I think we're going to see him being cautious here like he has been. He's going to have to respect Jared Cannonier's power, because Jared will walk through some punches to land something, and he hits like a truck. So I don't think we're going to see any grappling in this fight. Only 4 takedown attempts for Cannonier in 13 fights. Israel in 12 UFC fights as a champion has never even landed a takedown. 4.72% control time for Cannonier, 1.5% control time for Adesanya. These guys don't look to grapple. They're strikers first. They switch stances. They both have precision and power, and that's how they're looking to win fights. So I see this taking place on the feet for the full 25. I could see Adesanya getting a knockout. I could see him winning a decision, but I think the most likely path is that it's a 5-round fight, and Adesanya's been champion for a very long time, and I don't think he's going to do anything stupid that would give Jared Cannonier the chance to land that big shot. Look at that line, you guys. Minus 450. Does Adesanya, does he strike you as the kind of dude that's going to go out there and try to look minus 450? Or does he strike you as the kind of dude that's going to go out there and say, I'm keeping this belt because I'm better than this guy, and if I kickbox him at range and frustrate him for the full 25 minutes, I'm going to easily win this fight. So maybe he lands something big here. Maybe he catches Cannonier off guard and lands a big shot. But the way I see this going down is Israel Adesanya using that length, using that height, using that footwork to avoid the power of Jared Cannonier, to touch him with some leg kicks, to land some jabs, and to win a very boring decision. I think it's going to be a very boring fight, and I really don't see much here for Jared. He hasn't shown the ability to be versatile and mix in grappling. And that's something you'd like to see against anybody that's fighting Adesanya because he's such an effective minute winner. I mean, if you think about it, the guy's 11-1. He's 11-0 as a middleweight, and he's won 7 of those fights by decision. So this guy's a master of winning minutes. While Cannonier has only won 2 fights by decision, and I don't think either of them were at the middleweight level. One of them was against Gastelum. And then the other one would have been against I am Kutalaba was the other decision win. While you see Adesanya, winning decisions against Whitaker, Vittori, Yoel Romero, and being cautious a lot of the time. So I'm picking Israel Adesanya to win this one by decision. I think it's going to be boring. I think it's a great way to end a card that's going to be fire from top to bottom, and then we can just see Israel do his thing and maybe fight another boring kickboxing match. And guess what? If Israel does decide to come out of his shell, if he does decide like, hey, maybe I do need, I'm still only 32 years old. Maybe I want to be marketable. Maybe I want to put on some good fights. Maybe he will step out here and try to finish Jerry Cannonier, but I'm picking Izzy to win this one by decision, you guys. So we made it through all 12 fights. I appreciate you guys hanging out with me here. Let's go into the comments here, see what's going on. We got 151 of you guys hanging out live with us here. Justin Villegas saying every now and then the UFC will throw the champ food to play with and make it a struggle, and he earned it with them. So they gave him Jared to play with to take the time off, basically. It could be, man. Dan saying Izzy reads comments, so maybe he has the vapors about it enough to actually try to finish. Then again, leg kicks at range. Yeah. Cashed out a plus 230 Gamrot last week. Yikes, no. Damn it, man. Sloppy Second saying thank you, Weezy, in the chat. Mushroom saying Uncle Weezy's 4-leg greasy parlay incoming. Dan saying great show, lads. The comment section lived up to it. I appreciate all of you guys for hanging out. So let's get these banners up here because I'm going to give you guys the tracked bets that I have thus far. Put that on the screen for you guys here. So 1.5 units on the Jalen Turner money line at minus 125. I think that he can win minutes in the grappling here. I think he's the far more powerful striker. And then trying to close range on a guy with a 6-inch reach advantage and a 8-inch height advantage. And that guy is throwing those knees up the middle, throwing with big power on his strikes. And he doesn't wind up on his strikes either. They just hurt. So I'm looking for Jalen Turner to get it done violently against Brad Riddell. O'Malley by decision at plus 200. That's a play on the durability of Pedro Munhoz and the lack of versatility for Pedro Munhoz. The guy just doesn't get takedowns at a good clip. I can't count on him winning minutes up against the cage and on the ground against O'Malley. And in that big cage, I want the guy who lands 8.3 significant strikes a minute and absorbs less than 4. Wins minutes, uses that length, uses that footwork, and has really good power too. So I like O'Malley to win by decision. I like the O'Malley-Munhoz fight to go to decision. Those are 2 nice plus money bets, and I got 1 unit on the fight doesn't go to decision for Tavares to Plessis at plus money. Tavares is a guy that's you don't want to bet fight doesn't go to decision in Tavares fights. He makes fights go to decision, but Plessis is he's the polar opposite. Killer be killed fighter. 18 fights have all finished inside the distance. He's not very durable, and he's a ton of power. So I think we are going to see that one finish inside the distance. So that's all I got tracked so far. I probably will be adding a couple more bets as the week goes on here. But that's what I've got so far. So for the greasy 4-leg parlay, you guys, let's get that up on the screen. We got 4 legs here. So the Jalen Turner money line is going to be the first leg of it. This has already got some stuff in there that I like. The Sean Strickland money line will be the second one. Like I say, you guys, I think the striking exchanges are going to be close. And if I'm right about that, then what you're doing if you're betting on Pereira is you're saying, I think he lands a knockout. And you might as well just bet him by knockout because it's going to be hard for him to win enough minutes to get a decision here if he's unable to stop the grappling of Strickland. And I think Strickland is going to go to the grappling. But even if he doesn't, if he marches this dude down, stays in his face, and out-volumes him, it could be a very, very close fight. But I think that the likelihood that we don't see any grappling from Strickland is very low, so I'm looking for Strickland to win this fight. O'Malley by decision at plus 170 now. I got it at plus 200, but it's available at plus 170 on FanDuel. Fattens up this parlay really nice. The last leg will be Israel Adesanya by decision. This 4-leg greasy parlay clocking in at plus 1893. It's eligible for insurance on FanDuel if they're still doing the insurance. I have no idea if they're doing it or not. But that, my friends, is Uncle Weezy's greasy 4-leg parlay for this week. I've got a half unit on it. I'm trying to win almost 10. Let's get it. All right. One order of business left to go, you guys. It's Uncle Weezy's ass shaving of the week. And we've got some good candidates here. Clark Stoliarenko, I'm not touching. Barber, I'm not touching. I think Muniz can submit Hall here. He's definitely on the list. I think du Plessis can get a knockout over Brad Tavares here. He's on the list, but Tavares is really good as well. Ian Garry against Green. I do like Ian Garry here, but not enough to pick him. Green is a tough one. Cerrone Miller, not touching it with a 10-foot pole. I like Jalen Turner. I like Sean O'Malley. Lawler Barberena, not touching it. I like Sean Strickland. I like Volkanovski. I like Adesanya, but Adesanya is the minus 450, so let's forget about Adesanya. Let's see what you guys are saying in the chat here. Insurance promo usually comes out on Thursday. Okay, is that why? All right, I get it. Insurance promo, haha. Yeah. Let's see. And then Sloppy Second saying, I guess wait for weigh-ins to see their haircut. So let me just say here, man, it was going to be Sean O'Malley. I'm very confident that Sean O'Malley is going to win this fight, but I kind of think like if there is a finish in that fight, that it's going to be on the Munhoz side. So it's not really an ass shaving, but I thought he would make it look really easy. But then I was like, fuck, man, this guy's letting snitches give him tattoos. He's got some really bad tattoos, made some very bad life decisions. The throne is cool. I don't know about the hair, and I don't know if the hair is going to look just flat out stupid. And if it looks flat out stupid, then it would be back-to-back TJ Brown, Sean O'Malley. And if O'Malley lost that, I would not be able to forgive myself, because then it would be like, I just picked two dudes with really shitty hair in a row now. So I had to pick somebody with a haircut you could set your watch to. I had to pick somebody that I think really goes out there to shave ass. And I had to pick somebody this week. I kind of felt like I got a chip on my shoulder, right? It's UFC 276. I got to bring the fire. The UFC is bringing the fire this week, man. Clint brought the fire having me on his show last week. We went for 2.5 hours talking about this card. Me and Brady, we brought the fire on Sunday, on Stat Diggers, like we do every goddamn week. Every Saturday night, we have a good day, we have a bad day. Doesn't matter. We have to get back to work to get there on Sunday to do the Stat Diggers work, right? We don't get to lick our wounds. We don't get to celebrate our wins. It's always just right back to work. So for this one, I had to bring out something that I had to bring out a read. Bring out your pitchforks and torches, you guys, because I think you're going to be coming after me this week. Giving you a plus money ass shaving, you guys. I don't do this often. And I'm on a 1-week losing streak, and I'm fully aware of that. And I think what a coward would do is they would just say, I'm going to take the biggest favorite on the card and just try to get another winning streak going. I'm not doing that. I'm taking somebody here that a lot of people think is going to get flatlined, man. And bring out the pitchforks and torches, because Uncle Weezy's ass shaving of the week this week is going to be Sean Strickland to shave the ass of Alex Pereira. I think he's a one-dimensional fighter, you guys. I think he's maybe a little bit of a fraud. I think when you lose a round to Andreas Mihalidis at 185, that you should not be a favorite against Sean Strickland, a guy who has fought some of the best middleweights in the world and made it look easy. He marched through Uriah Hall like it was nothing. I think he's better everywhere except for the power in that left hook, and except for in the length, obviously. I think Sean is going to show this guy what it means to be a mixed martial artist instead of a kickboxer. And that is what the fight That's what this is, you guys. This is a mixed martial arts fight. It's not a kickboxing fight. And Sean Strickland is a mixed martial artist. He's also a psychopath. And he also has a haircut that you can set your watch to, my friends. So this week's ass shaving of the week is Sean Strickland to shave the ass of Alex Poeteng Pereira. I realize it's risky, but fortune favors the bold, and I'm looking to come out the other end, up money and winning units and stacking cashed tickets like flapjacks for UFC 276. You guys, 150 of you guys hanging out in here. I appreciate each and every one of you. We got Addicted, or who was it? Addicted. I just saw Addicted to Combat say something and I missed it. Oh, yeah. Saying the four-legger is pretty healthy this week. The Strickland leg is dripping with grease, but I got to tell you, yeah, man, I know, man. It's a greasy ass shaving of the week this week. The greasy four-legger is always going to be greasy, but the ass shaving is greasy, man, but it's plus money. I'm putting it on. I'm putting it out there. I think Sean Strickland's going to make it look good. I think he's going to make it look easy against Pereira here. I think he's going to show the holes that are obviously in his game. Big experience advantage, big strength to schedule advantage, big grappling advantage, big durability advantage as well. So let's go with Sean Strickland. Thank all of you guys for hanging out in here. That's definitely a new record, you guys, for just the tip. I've never had, I think, barely 100 people in here before, but 150 today. Thank you guys all for hanging out. Thank you, Clint, for having me on the show. Thank you, everybody over at the MMA Engine that's been working with me here, building that YouTube channel, building that website, which is going to be coming in like 2 weeks, you guys were looking for. So thank all you guys for hanging out. We got to stack cash tickets like flapjacks for UFC 276. Check me out tomorrow. I'll be on the Chronic Combat Conversations show. Check out those guys. Subscribe to their channel if you haven't already. Hit that thumbs up on the way out. If you haven't subscribed to my channel yet, please do that. There will always be a lot more content here on the channel. We do just the tip every damn week. And maybe if I'm not completely gassed out after Chronic Combat Conversations, maybe I'll do an Ask Weezy over here tomorrow night because it's such a fire card. But we'll see how I feel after going with those guys for a couple hours. But God bless each and every one of you guys. I will see you tomorrow night on Chronic Combat Conversations. Let's just make a ton of money on UFC 276 and enjoy these amazing 12 fights. Good night, everybody, and I will talk to you guys tomorrow.